All right, everybody, welcome again. Week 3 of our class. Good to hear that London, you were able to have some success with logging in. Still need to get the Epic Games launcher and then Unreal Engine installed, but once you do, I do have a project that looks very similar to this one right here, so you guys can get caught up to speed really quickly. All right. So we talked about last time, we created a couple of blueprints. So I'll focus in here. Here was our tables that we had. And then we had another table here. And one of the really great things with blueprints, as we talked about, if we had built these and even if we had copy and pasted them throughout our level, what if we decided, you know what, I really don't like the way that the top of the table looks. I want to use a different color. I want to do a red. So we do that and we just save it here in our blueprint. And then when we go back to the level, it changes it for all of them. And again, you can see that our cylinders are kind of clipping through a little bit. So, and this happens on all of them, if you notice. Okay, we got one more. There's Eden. Let me let Eden in. Hello, Eden. Welcome, welcome. Okay, so we see that we have some clipping. Let's go ahead and just go down to our cylinders. I'll do that and move them down just a touch. Need to turn my snapping off. Ah, okay. There we go. All right, so now compile save back here, and we've fixed all of them at once. So that is really one of the beautiful things about blueprints. But blueprints are really how we make our game come alive with interactivity. And right at the end of our session yesterday, you may have noticed that we created these dummy players, and we put them on our field. And in here, I quickly threw in right before we left some code that says, okay, on every frame of the game, basically think of it like every second of the game, rotate these guys, our players, fake players, rotate them twice on the y-axis. And so when we went to go play it, I'll click play from here. We saw that, okay, well, they do move, but not really in the direction that we want. And let me stop it here because we have one more. We have Trinity. Welcome, Trinity. Welcome to our session. So I'm going to go back to here. Instead of doing it on the Y, right? Because you see this little widget right down here? This kind of gives us a little sense of 3D space. We want to do it on the Z. So I'm going to take this out, put this back to 0, add 2 here, compile, save. Remember, compile, save, compile, save. I'll do a save all. And now what we'll see is that when we run our game, they turn that way. Okay. Now, one of the things about AI characters in video games is you want to try to make them lifelike. And these right here, you could tell, are just spinning the same way. So what if we said, if we went in here and we split these up so that we can work specifically with the X, Y, and Z separately. So what we'll do is we'll right click on that and we'll go split structure pin. Okay. And then right here, instead of it always being 2, maybe I'll do a random. So let me drag out here. I'm going to type random. Am I searching? Yeah, there we go. Random float. So a float is a number that can have a decimal point. Like 17.3, whereas an integer is a whole number like 6 or 5. So we're going to say random float in range, and we're going to say, okay, let's set it between 1 and 5. Compile, save, and let's drag a few of our dummies in here as well, a few more. And now we'll press play. So this one over here looks like it's doing a little differently. Let's make that value a little bigger so you can really see a bigger difference. Let's move this up to 15. Compile, save, and press play. There we go. So now we see they all move a little bit differently depending on what random number was picked. Okay, so enough with these guys. What we're going to do now is we're going to create another one from scratch. We're going to create a launch pad for our player. And obviously, you wouldn't do this in soccer, but we're just still learning how to use blueprints in Unreal Engine. So what I'd like for you to do is we're going to create a new blueprint. Remember, we go down here in a blank space in your content browser. And if you have a blueprints folder, it's good to do it there. So I'm going to right click, blueprint class, actor, and I'm going to call this BP underscore launcher. All right, open that up, compile, save. Now let's add a visual representation to our launcher. So I'm just going to, again, add a basic cube. And I'm going to size it down a little bit. And I'll pick one of our existing materials. Maybe I have a blue here. Yeah, the guardrail one. Okay. All right. So I'm going to save that. And now I'm going to introduce you to a new object, and this is called a box collider. Okay. So we'll go over here to the components, which is all the goodies we can add to our blueprint. And we're going to type box collision. And this is going to create an invisible box on top of this blue mesh. So if I compile and save and drag this out to my level, you can see that this is really invisible, which is good because all we want this box to do, this tall box, is to detect if something collides with it. So if we press play again, you'll see, play from here, you'll see that we don't see the collision box, which is fine. All right. So I'm going to go back to my blueprint and actually dock it up here. I want to make that mesh a little bigger. So let me scale that a little bit. All right. Now, when you select the box here, the box collision, we're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom on the right. That we'll just take the scroll bar and just go because I know it's down here. So here's all the things we can do programmatically with this collision box. We can say when something overlaps with it, or when something's inside of it and ends the overlap, or if it's clicked on, or if it's been if you have a mobile game and you're using a touch interface. So we're just going to do this one right here, which is called on component begin overlap. And again, the component is the box collision. So this is on box collision begin overlap. And we do that, it puts this node in here already for us. Okay. So let's drag out of here, do a print screen. And we'll just say, Overlap, overlapped. Okay. Now let's try to compile this. Okay. And let's go back to our game and let's run over that and see if we get that message. Yep, there it is. We step off it, we go back on it, overlapped. We jump up and down. Well, actually, it's the if the box collider was a little smaller, jumping up and down would do that. Okay. All right. So that's cool. So we know that it's detecting the collision, right? And it's doing something. It's not real fun. It just prints a message on the screen. So let's take it up a notch. Let's go to our launcher and we'll take this out. You can just hit delete. You can disconnect it. I'm just going to delete it. Let's do something fun. Let's search for launch. And this is important to uncheck context sensitive. So sometimes Unreal tries to guess what you're trying to do. And unfortunately, that can hide some things that we actually want to see. So we're going to uncheck that. And we want this launch character. All right. Now let's try to compile that. And it's not going to let us. And that's because we have to tell it what character to launch. Is it one of the other players in the game? Is it some other prop? So what we can do is we can right click and we'll do get player character. And now we just hook that up to the target, right? As so, compile, save, and let's check it out. Go over here, we'll press play, we'll run over to this mat and launch our character. No. Anybody know why?
No values were set.
Exactly. They're all set to 0. So we obviously want to have something in here. Let's type 30. Okay. Compile, save, go back, press play, and let's see if this puts us in the air a little bit. Not really. Well, it actually is doing it. It's just that value is so low. So if I were to set it to 1,000, compile and save. Let's try it now. And there we go. Okay. So that's pretty cool. Now, let's say instead of going into this particular node here, which I'll show you the player character so you can see, because the player character with the template we have already has a blueprint built in. So I want you to see how much code gets into these things. So imagine our launcher had all that much code and you got to remember, oh, where did I put where do I change the amount? So the way that we can actually do that is create a variable over here, which we see in every view of our blueprint. So we're going to go here like we did with the other thing. We're going to split the structure pin and we're going to right click this and promote to variable. And I'll call it launch strength. Strength, there we go. You do have to compile before you can set the default value. So I'll compile and save, and now I can go down here on the right with my variables set, and I can set the default value. So I'm going to set this to 10,000. That should be fun. Compile, save, and let's go back and see. We should really go up in the air when we go on it here. Wham! Woo! Superman. Okay. And if we ever come back down.
Program in some fall damage.
Yeah, you could definitely you could create some fall damage, a health system. Um, so let's go back one more time to this launcher. I'm going to change our value, set it back to 1,000. And it's kind of nice, but a little boring. It's just the pad here. So let's go, and I don't know if you guys have this. I believe it's in the default content, but I'm going to go and I'm going to add a Niagara particle system. And so a particle system is basically a visual effects system, like fire or wind or dust. It loops. Rain is another example, snow. So I'm going to add that here. Okay, and it's just empty right here. So I need to select a Niagara asset. And I do have one right here called Jump Pad. And that's going to add this really nice, cool visual effect. And we won't go into Niagara effects in detail right now, but I will just go over here to the asset and let you see how it's put together. So again, this is a lot of stuff, but this shows you how you can really kind of format it to how you like it. You can give it like wind effects so that it blows in a direction. Um, it it is a very complex but also really cool system. So some people in the games industry, all they do is work with this kind of stuff, like the Niagara and the special effects. Okay, so let's go back and let's just, yeah, since we added it to our blueprint, it's right there. So let's see. Let's just check this out again. And yay. Okay. I can go here and Alt copy like we did. And again, because this is a blueprint, if I wanted to say, yeah, I can't really, the color's not really cool on this, so I'm going to change it to, I don't know, we'll just pick that, whatever that is. And I compile and save, and then it should change all of my launchers here. Not that that is a great visual look, but just wanted to demonstrate that again. Actually, I'll change this back to red. Okay. Save. All right. So we do have some time left, so I want to let's create another one. And I'm going to delete these two. Let's create another blueprint. Go to your blueprint folder, and if you've ever played pretty much any kind of video game over the last 20 years, you've probably had to jump on top of a moving platform. So let's see if we can build that in 10 minutes. Okay, actor, I'm going to call this BP underscore platform. Open it up. Okay, first thing we need is a pole, right, to hold. So I will add a cylinder and I'm gonna scale this guy so that it's real tall and thin. If I can get that middle one, there we go. So we'll do that. And then I'm gonna zoom way out and stretch this way up here. And I'm gonna bring this down to here. Okay. So what we want to happen is for this to rise up in the air and then we're gonna have it come back down. And then obviously we also need a platform. So I'll add just a basic cube, make it a little more platform-y we'll scale it this way and that way and make sure that that's good. Okay. And I'm going to select both of these, and I'm going to change the material. I do have like a gray, like a steel, I think we created, something like that. Oh, that wasn't it. Oh, that's good enough. Okay. So let's compile and save. Let's drag it into our level. If you remember, the player starts kind of right here in the middle of the field, so I'm going to put it in here just to make sure that it looks the size. Yeah, okay, that'll work. You know what? Actually, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. So I'm going to go over here. Just going to scale it that way and that way. Okay. Now let's go to our code, which is in our event graph. So you have your viewport, that's where all your visual stuff is, and then you have your event graph, which is okay, looks like Carol got dropped, but she's joining us again. Event graph. Okay. Now the next thing that I want to do is create a custom event. So I will right click and just type custom. And I'm going to call this moving platform. The next thing I'm going to do, you could code this by hand, but Unreal Engine already has a really handy component that pretty much does this. So if we type interp to movement, okay, and let's see, interp to movement, the duration we're going to set to 5 seconds. So this is basically how long is it going to be for the platform to go from the bottom to the top? And we'll say 5 seconds. And obviously, a lot of that will depend on how far up or down we want to go as well. So that's where control points comes in. And again, don't worry about memorizing all this. I really want you to focus more on how all these pieces work together. So our first index is going to be 0, 0, 0. We'll add another array element. This will be our ending point. And let's set the Z value, these are XYZ values, to 10. Okay. And then we want to, there's one more thing we want to do. We want to auto, if you can't find anything, always go up here to the details and just type what you're looking for. Yeah, auto activate. That means run it as soon as the game runs. Let's test that out. Right, let's see. Okay. So there's still a few more things that we need to do. Okay. Just check real quick here. Okay. What did we call this? Platform. Okay. So on this, we want to drag out here, and we're going to type interp to movement activate. All right. Compile and save. And then on our begin play, we want to launch this function right here, or this custom event. So we'll just go here and type in moving platform. Okay. Let's see if that did the trick. Press play. Oh, I did this earlier. Let me go back to the one I saved. I know I'm missing something here. That was the launch character. BP platform. We have our interp to movement. We'll clear this. We have our duration, 10 and 10. Maybe this isn't high enough. Maybe that was just like our launch character. Let's see. Yeah, that's it. So, okay, you see what's happening, right? It goes up, so it works, sort of. It goes up, it stays in the air. We'd rather it come back down. And the pole's not long enough. So let's add a little polish, as we call it in game design, and that's where you take things and make them look a little less janky. So we'll go here back to our platform and our viewport, and we're going to make this a lot longer so that it never appears to come out of the ground. Okay. Let's just make sure that's not poking through. Okay. Let's compile and save. Let's try it out again. I'm going to do a quick save all. I can't get up there. Okay. So that's good. The poles doesn't come out of the ground. Let's do a few more things here. We got a few more minutes. Let's go back to the platform and select this interp to movement component. And let's decrease the duration, which will, I believe, make it faster. So we'll say 3, and let's make it only go up 600 because I want us to be able to jump on it. Okay, down here at the behavior, let's unclick sweep there. The behavior type one shot means it's going to go up and then that's it. What we want is a ping pong. So check that, compile, save, and now should be a little faster and it'll come back down. Let's see if we can jump on it. Oh, just made it. Okay. Now let me see if I can run on this guy and jump on that platform. That would be pretty cool. Nope, not far enough. Okay, so that is the start of interactive blueprints. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, so you can see how you can quickly get some animated stuff, interactive stuff, right? We have a collision component here so that nothing will happen unless our player walks over that. Remember, because we have our box collision. And then we have a moving platform that goes up and down. There's all kinds of things you could do with this. You could make it, set it to not start automatically, but maybe when the player runs over it, it'll start to go up and down in the air. All right. So what we're going to do is tomorrow we're going to get a soccer ball in the game. And if you have been following along with the collision and the box collision and the detection, we are going to create a invisible box collision on this goal. And then we're going to say, does our soccer ball collide with this invisible box that will be inside of our goal? And then if it does, we're going to say, you just scored a point. All right, sweet. And for our LA team, I will continue to work with you to get you guys up to speed on the Shadow PCs. And other than that, have a great rest of the day and a great evening.
You.
Thanks, you too.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.